y'all, welcome back to Poplar Creek Farm. Today we are out in the garden, got my little garden helper, and we are going to plant taters. Lots and lots of taters. So I cut these last night and let them cure so that they are not moist, because if you don't let them cure they can break down in the soil a little bit quicker. So I cut these. I wanted to make sure that I had at least 2 eyes. You really only need 1, but I've heard like old wives' tales say like 3 is the best, but either way I wanted at least 2. A lot of them have more than that on each piece, and I cut them. So I have 2 different kinds of potatoes. I have a russet like baking potato, which is this one, and then I've got more of like a yellowy white potato that has a thinner skin, and again made sure I had eyes. So these are only about half of what my neighbor gave us, and this is going to be plenty. I ended up giving some to my aunt because they hadn't gotten any seed potatoes yet. So I mean, this is more than I could plant. I would love to plant them all, but I just don't have the space for it. I have a huge garden, but I fill it pretty quick. So this is my area for my potatoes. In this back corner here, there's a big chunk of corn. And then this is a row, right where my daughter is kind of, that's a row of zucchini and bush cucumbers. And then over along here along this fence are beans. So everywhere in between here is going to be potatoes. So I'm going to use, where'd it go? I'm losing everything. My mind included. My shoulder hurts, but I'm using this pickaxe because the wide end digs really perfect ditches to plant the potatoes in. So basically I'm going to run that down this, straight down, and then go through and plant a bunch of potatoes. I'm going to plant as many as I possibly can. I'm hoping to plant all of these in this area. I think I'll have plenty. And if I have any space left over, I'll plant some squashes. But the rest of my squashes are going up at my parents' because they're only a few minutes up the road from us. They're land. They don't live there yet. They don't have any structures. But we're going to go ahead and till up an area up there and put some fences around and plant all the squashes up there because I had a big garden, but I ran out of room really fast. Let's get planting. You ready to plant? I got 2 rows done so far. I had all the russets in, and I have a good amount of the yellow ones in too, but I just realized I also have to plant my sweet potatoes out here. So I'm gonna I have plenty of room still. I'm gonna do another row of the yellow potatoes. I have plenty of room to do 2 or 3 more rows without doing the sweet potatoes even, or still leaving room for the sweet potatoes. But I am gonna go grab the sweet potatoes after this because they vine quite a bit, so I wanna plant them, kind of have room for them planned out. I only have like 4 or 5 slips of those. My potatoes didn't grow as many slips as I was hoping, which is fine. We don't have great soil for sweet potatoes, and we really don't have a long growing season, so it is what it is. But I totally had forgotten about those until just now. So let's finish up these potatoes and then we'll get the sweet potatoes out here. To now plant my sweet potato slips. Just got a couple of them. My potatoes end right here, and then I'm gonna put the sweet potatoes in. So this was the first one, obviously, that came off. It has beautiful roots. So you plant it just the roots in, like that. Beautiful. Some of them in here look kind of yucky, but I'll give them a bit of room. And then plant this one. So sweet potatoes vine quite a bit, but regular potatoes don't. So hopefully they'll be okay next to each other. I'm gonna have some vining squashes over here because I've got plenty of room now for squashes. I'm gonna put a couple squashes at least. I'm still gonna plant a bunch up at my parents', but I figure if I've got some space, I might as well plant some here too. That one's kind of tiny. And then this one, yuck. No, I'm still gonna try to plant this one, even though it's kind of yucky at this point. Because why not? And potatoes are done. With, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and like a quarter of a row of potatoes. And then obviously my sweet potatoes are at the end, but then there's nothing behind the sweet potatoes, and all this space right here is good. So I'm gonna plant probably, I don't know, maybe like one of each of my squash varieties, just to have some here. And then the rest will go up in my parents'. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Do like 2 rows of squash here, vining squashes. I think that'll be okay. And on this trellis, I still have to plant this today. One side's gonna be Kajari melons. I think I might do both sides Kajari melons actually, and then just do my honey nut squash over there. I was gonna do some honey nut squash on this, but I think, we'll see how many Kajari melon seeds I have. This is why I don't plan my garden out like ahead of time, like have it set in stone of like what I'm gonna do, because I never stick with it. I'm always like, oh, this looks good here. No, actually I don't like that. Or no, I wanna put that there. It's just, I never stick with my plans like 100%. So I'd rather not like get in my head a plan that I don't feel comfortable changing then. I'll take a look at my bees. They look like they're like all over the one hive. I think this week my queens should be mating. It's perfect weather for mating flights. And if that's the case, they'll be laying by next week, which is when I'm gonna check my splits. I've been checking my splits in the sense of like I've opened them up, given them sugar water, but I haven't been inspecting them or anything like that, because that's, you don't do that until they're you know your queen is probably mated, because you don't want to risk squishing your queen and then having no eggs for them to make a new queen out of. Now it's about 80 degrees today, a little over 80, like 84 or something like that, which is really warm for New York. So the bees are definitely busy. Those busy ladies. Even the split is busy. All my splits seem to be doing okay. This one's obviously like a little behind because that was a later split. But they're definitely splitting. Or they're definitely alive and still doing okay. And all of my hives seem to be doing good. That one actually is almost like bearding a little bit, which I'm kind of surprised. But it's definitely warm. And as you see, all of my established hives are 2 deeps and 2 mediums, so 2 supers, which is exciting that they're doing that well, that I felt the need to put on an extra super. This weekend it was really cool. We were in the, it was cool-ish, I should say. When we were in the garden, all of a sudden my husband goes, you've got a swarm, I think. And all in front of the garden was a ton of bees flying all around the air. And so we followed them, but they went down the road further. So I don't know where they ended up, where that swarm ended up landing. And I checked my hives afterwards, because then we had a second one as well. But I checked my hives afterwards and I don't see any signs that they swarmed. They all still look really strong. Didn't look like any reduction in a population. So if they did, it wasn't notable. I did see one of my queens in there, so I know she didn't leave. But then the other swarm ended up landing, went over our heads. It was a really small one, and landed on one of our trees, like, I don't know, 20 feet from my swarm trap. Couldn't go to that. And I caught them, got them into a hive. We got the whole swarm down. I felt really good about it. And then, but I had given them a totally brand new box, like nothing, no drawn out comb, no honey, nothing to entice them to stay. And I think that's where I made the mistake. And by the evening they were gone. So whatever. It was still an awesome experience to try to catch a hive or catch a swarm on my own. My parents were here and they kind of got to watch it, so it was super cool. But it would have been cool if they stayed. I would have loved to have 10 hives. I do need to check my swarm traps because the back one I've seen some activity, but I don't know if it's just like robbers still. There's no honey in it, but they could still be going in and out, or just foragers checking it out, or what. We'll see. But let's get some squashes planted and like the dry melons, and then I'm gonna plant some flowers. Well guys, I just realized it is almost 5 o'clock. My kids have a soccer game at 6, so I actually can't plant anymore. I need to get my butt moving, getting them ready for soccer, getting them fed, all those things. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Remember, we're growing today for a better tomorrow. Please like and subscribe and join me on the next one.